You ever have one of those moments where you walk into your own life and don't recognize a damn thing? I mean, picture this. I pull up after a year-long coma, barely walking straight thinking I'm finally home, only to find a luxury resort plop down on my private lake like some kind of sick joke. There's music banners, beach chairs, all of it, and the cherry on top, a bronze plaque that says generously donated by the late Randall Denton. That's me, by the way, still breathing. But then the HOA president herself walks up, hands me my own death certificate, and tells me to get off her property. You can't make this stuff up. Let me back up a sec. 10 years ago, if you'd told me I'd end up on a quiet slope in rural Missouri, living beside a lake so still it looked painted, I'd have laughed you out of the room and gone back to bickering about river flow rates with bureaucrats who hadn't seen mud since elementary school. My life was all water tables and sediment charts, budget hearings, and the kind of endless meetings that grind the color out of a man's soul. 20 years of that, and yeah, I was ground down to the bone. So when I finally cashed out, sold my condo in Denver, I just kept driving until the highway shrank to 2 lanes, until the air smelled like pine needles and wet earth, until I could breathe again. That's when I found it, a little 27-acre lake tucked behind a stand of red oaks, untouched and absolutely perfect. There was an old cabin falling apart, windows busted raccoon prints on the floor chimney, leaning like it needed a vacation. But it had good bones, and for the first time in decades, I had something worth rebuilding. I laid every stone in that foundation myself. Every piece of siding, every trench and filter measured, cut, dug by my own 2 hands the way Dad taught me. The cabin grew into a home. The lake became my sanctuary. Mornings were pure magic mist rising off the water sun, creeping over the trees, ducks skating along like paintbrushes. I'd sit on the porch with a black cup of coffee, just letting the world untangle itself. Evenings I'd paddle out and watch the sky fade from honey gold to purple, not a sound except the frogs tuning up for the night and the wind easing through the cattails. That was real peace, the kind you have to earn. Of course, just over the hill was Lakeside Haven, a nice neighborhood in that cookie-cutter way. Big houses, bigger garages, pastel mailboxes, and an HOA that wrote more letters than the actual post office. I didn't belong, didn't want to, and thank God my land wasn't inside their borders. But they had an HOA president, all right, Karen Woodley. Her first appearance in my life was about 2 weeks after I moved in. There I am, knee-deep in a muddy trench, and here comes this cream-colored pantsuit, strutting my way clipboard in hand like she's the queen of the Nile. She introduces herself voiced like she's reading my right smile, rigid as drywall. Welcome to the neighborhood. I give her my best IRS auditor smile and let her know politely that I'm not part of the HOA. She doesn't miss a beat. Well, we thought your parcel might fall within the historic watershed overlay. It didn't, and she knew it. But she wanted to foster community. I went back to my trench. She hovered, waited left. That I thought would be the end of it. But people like Karen never leave well enough alone. I'd catch glimpses of her maybe twice gliding by in a black SUV or flying a drone just a little too close to my tree line. Nothing hostile, just watching. And something in me stiffened. Not fear exactly, just the gut-deep sense that someone was eyeing my land, not as scenery, but as an opportunity. I brushed it off, figured real peace could last. Looking back, that was just the first tremor before the quake. A few weeks later, I started noticing things. A buzzing over the lake, too mechanical for cicadas, not a mosquito, more like a drone. I ignore it at first, figure it's a kid. But then I catch sight of it, gray quadcopter, high-res camera just staring. I wave, not friendly, just to say I see you. It zips away. Then comes the black SUV crawling along my property line, stopping every 20 feet like someone's mapping my life. And then there's this stranger clipboard and GPS standing right at the fence line. Ball cap, tall, maybe late 20s. What I remember most is the tattoo, a black jagged thing wrapped around his left wrist, something tribal but new. I ask what he's doing, and he bolts, vanishing in a cloud of dust. Small things, right? But those were the cracks. Then came the storm. One night I'm driving home, new sump pump in the back, radio humming, just thinking about calling my sister. It's drizzling, not enough to slow down. Then I see headlights, too bright, too close, truck drifting across the center line. We lock eyes for a second. It's the man with the tattoo. Before I can react, he slams into me. Everything goes white, then black. 8 months in a coma. They found my truck, my blood, but not me. No wallet, no ID. They called me John Doe. That's how the HOA got their shot. While I was dead, a guy named Donald Pierce walked into the county office, claimed to be a social worker, filed a provisional death notice, and declared me gone. Not official, but enough to trigger emergency stewardship, enough for the HOA to seize my property. My sister Linda, bless her, signed a bunch of forms thinking she was protecting my legacy. She had no idea she was signing over the keys. By the time I came out of the coma and learned my own name again, my lake had become Willow Beach Private Access, only for the Lakeside Haven HOA. There were metal gates, security, even brochures everywhere, my name in memory of the late Randall Denton. The first time I walked back, I had to climb over a drainage ditch because my own keys were useless. I saw the staffers, the new gazebos, string lights, the lake transformed into a damn resort. And then I saw him, the same tattooed wrist on a kid stacking kayaks. The man who'd nearly killed me was on payroll. When I reached my cabin, nothing was mine. Furniture gone, my father's compass replaced by a stock photo family. That's when Karen arrived in her navy pantsuit, clipboard in hand, security in tow. She looked at me like I was a raccoon in her attic, told me I was trespassing, showed me my own death certificate. The cops backed her up, said county records showed I was dead and this land was HOA property. Told me to leave or get arrested, and I left just long enough to fight back. I found an attorney, Marcus Sharp, as a TAC ex-federal fraud litigator. He heard my story, saw the evidence, hospital records, the tattoo, Linda's forms, all of it, and said, "This is bigger than you think." We brought in an environmental specialist and a forensic auditor. Turns out the HOA had run every scam in the book, fraud, environmental crimes, you name it. The guy with the tattoo. Same one who ran me off the road. Marcus said it attempted murder tied to a financial scheme. But here's where it gets good. While we're building our case, Heather, the environmental specialist, catches Pierce on a drone camera pouring gasoline in the gazebo. He sets it on fire, tries to destroy evidence. We get the whole thing on tape. The next day, we hand it all to the prosecutor. They watch the footage, read the paperwork, and realize this isn't just fraud, it's a conspiracy. The prosecutor storms into the HOA clubhouse right in the middle of Karen's speech. Karen tries to blame her nephew. He snaps, confesses everything in front of the whole community. Karen goes pale, starts screaming. They haul her out in handcuffs while the neighbors watch, stunned. Pierce gets picked up hiding behind an abandoned feed store, pleads guilty before they can even finish reading the charges. The judge doesn't hold back, gives Karen 25 years, says she built not a community but an empire of manipulation, gives me my land back, every acre, every right. I stand there while the county rips out the docks, the resort junk, the plaque that tried to write me off like I was already gone. Last thing I did was take a sledgehammer to that damn bronze plaque. 9 swings, and it was dust. I piled the shards and the ash, lit one last fire, and let every insult they wrote about me float away. Now there's a new sign on my lake private land. No HOA, no exceptions. And below, carved deep, if you fake my death twice, I start charging rent. You want to talk about justice, about what's right and wrong. Or maybe you've tangled with an HOA yourself, had a taste of that petty tyranny. I want to hear your story. Drop a comment, share what you think. Because if there's one thing I know for sure, you have to fight for what's yours, even if you have to come back from the dead to do it.